Oh, yeah. It's blue-white breakdown time. Bob Flounders, Dave Jones. Dave, I'm just going to get right to it on this late Wednesday morning. We got quite the coordinator battle on Saturday night. Brian Ferentz versus Manny Diaz. Who you got?
Brian Ferentz. You think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding.
All
It,
right.
it ain't going to be about the coordinators. I watched Iowa against Western Michigan, and it's
Uh-huh.
Western Michigan, which
Yeah.
isn't even Pep Boy Western Michigan anymore. They're not rowing the boat anymore. It's a also ran MAC program, but
But
Iowa is doing something with their offensive line that they haven't done in years, and they actually looked really good. They are running the ball with this kid named LaShawn Williams,
mm-hmm.
and they're running gap scheme stuff. They're pulling and running counter stuff that they haven't run in years, and they did it like all of a sudden in the middle of the season. Everyone's zone blocking like Wisconsin started doing 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Iowa kind of followed along. But this is like the old days of Kirk Ferentz, who was an old offensive line coach.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe he installed this. I'm not sure.
No, it's all Brian. It's
He
all
might
Brian.
have. Doesn't it so remind you of the old days of Jay Paterno 20 years ago? When
Yeah.
he was getting
Yeah.
hellacious
Might want to tread
mocking.
lightly here, David. You might want to tread lightly, but go ahead.
Well, Jay, unlike Brian, eventually pumped out a couple of Big Ten Players of the Year, both quarterbacks. So
Mhm.
he accomplished much more than Brian has in
Well, they have
05
Cade
and 09.
McNamara, though.
Cade McNamara doesn't look very good.
Hey,
Uh,
that was a deadpan, Dave. That was a classic
oh,
sarcasm. Yeah,
oh,
he's been awful,
yeah,
like
awful.
awful, awful.
Like barely 50%. Uh, so the test is whether Penn State is tough enough at scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't look very tough to me against Illinois early in that game. They were getting gashed. We will see. They can run around. They can certainly run around, but I don't know if
Yeah,
they can
Dave. If you just
withstand.
look at this winning streak, especially with Manny, the first drive is always an adjust. They just tighten the screws after the first drive. It's been pretty consistent.
I
The
know.
one outlier,
Yeah.
there was two outliers. It was not outliers, but Michigan just completely thrashed them. And everyone looks at that Ohio State score and all those points, but those 2 or 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter that handed Ohio State points. It was Penn State was in the lead in that game. It was like I think it was
No,
30.
the only comparable game is the Michigan game,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Ohio
I
State.
just think that you're going to see. I think in most college games, you're going to see teams because you're scripting plays, right? You're scripting your best plays. You're going to see the best they got right out of the gate. But what happens, on the second or third drive? And I just thought Illinois they just beat the snot out of Luke Altmaier. He got hit a ton, even though he wasn't sacked a lot. Adisa Isaac, I thought he was going to put him in the hospital with one of the hits he had on him. Everyone was blasting him, and I know that Iowa's offense is different, but I just, without that big tight end, you mentioned the running back, but the other two aren't going to play. I don't know that they have the depth or the originality to confound this defense for 60 minutes. I mean, they might get
Oh,
him.
confound, no.
Yeah,
No. This is gonna be a game management.
yeah.
This is gonna be one of those things. This is what I think, okay?
Mhm.
You can laugh at me or mock at me, I'm putting it out there.
We will.
This is I compared Kirk Ferentz to the cooler. You remember William H. Macy? They're the team that you don't respect, that
Hmm.
crops up in the middle of nowhere. And we know about all the games where they've beaten much superior teams
Sure.
back through the years,
Yeah, it's
including
actually maddening, but they do it on a
yeah,
regular
maddening is the word. And the 08 and 09 back to back against, of
Yeah.
course, those were Jay Paterno offenses. uh, but you remember those games, and Claiborne in the 09 game just took it over the 21 to 10
Yeah.
game.
What a player. What a
All
player.
of those. And then you've got Ohio State in 2017, Michigan in 2016. Those were really, really good teams that Iowa just kind of lulled to sleep. The Ohio State game was a total outlier because they scored 55.
Three of those 4 games were at Iowa, but
That's
yeah,
right.
I gotcha.
But one of them was here
in the rain,
in a
rainy
whiteout in the rain. What's going to happen?
They got up 10-0, and they thought it was going to be a rout, and they didn't do a single thing the rest of the game.
What's going to happen on Saturday? It's a whiteout in the rain. I don't think anyone takes Iowa seriously. All 4 of those games we just mentioned, Iowa was +7 or more.
Right.
I mean, they were not expected to do anything. They were unranked in every game. They're barely ranked now. A lot of people should say they shouldn't be ranked at all, right? Did you know they were ranked?
That should be like Brian Ferentz's like business card, barely ranked, something like that.
Well, no one expects them to do anything in this game.
Oh, I can't wait for this prediction because I think you're gonna be swimming upstream on this one, and I'm here for it.
I know, it's okay.
I am here for it. What do you think? So you've seen some of the Iowa offense, and I think that by now, Dave, most people, not all of them, know about the Brian Ferentz contract. But for those who don't, maybe could you give like a 60-second primer on what he's the son of Kirk? They didn't want him to come back after last year because they were so bad, but he is back. But there are some stipulations.
There are so many parallels to the Jay Paterno story. I've been trying to get Scott Docterman to write this for like 3 years because they just haven't been worth a damn. What have they averaged? 17.7 points last year. So
that's a defensive touchdown.
That's incredible. I mean, it's one of the
corner
worst.
Had 3. That corner had 3.
These days, 17.7, that's like 20 years ago. That's 23.4 the year before. They just haven't had any firepower. So there was so much pressure on Kirk. And there are so many parallels with Joe and Jay back in the 20 years ago, exactly, 03, 04. Mm-hmm. So that, unlike Joe and Jay, they put a stipulation in his contract, which is $925,000 a year for this, that if he doesn't score 25 points a game, which would be 325 over a 13-game schedule, assuming they make a bowl game, which I'm sure they will.
Well, if they don't, then he's fired anyway.
So then his contract is null and void, and then they negotiate it down to whatever they're not going to fire him, but maybe he'll make 800.
Oh, I want to see him not hit the mark and come back. I want to see that.
Oh, it's Kirk Ferentz, man. Jay always came back.
I don't know. That feels like pulling a fast one. I don't know about that.
The power is the power. Anyway, if you go on the Sickos Committee website, you can purchase right now a Drive to 325 T-shirt, which I think I need in my collection. That's.
I know. We know some writer that used to work at the Patriot News that would love that T-shirt. Our intern, Doug Lamarice, I think would.
That's right. Yeah.
Would love that. Doug's been pretty critical last year of Brian Ferentz holding a job at Iowa, and I think he is. I don't think he's laying in the weeds. I think he's just out in wide open spaces, just waiting to see if he's going to do this.
So it's a seeing, man. and those people in Iowa, they're really nice people, but even they're like up in arms. They're like that drunken mob 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say they weren't that nice in the game 2 years ago. I would say opposite of nice, but yeah.
No, they really are usually nice, but they just can't hold their liquor. And that was their.
I think they can hold it. I just think they exceeded like maximum capacity.
Yeah, that was their first foray into public liquor sales at Kinnick Stadium.
And they were double-fisted the whole game. I
think they were. Anyway.
God bless them all. It is a fun area.
I just think everyone is thinking, well, the Lions are going to get back for 2 years ago. This is almost a completely different team than 2 years ago. No. Half of these guys weren't even there. I just think 2 years ago is irrelevant.
No. I would say the coaching staff remembers, and if they get a chance late in the game, it might be a 2017 Michigan game when they're running up tempo trying to score to pile on. But yeah, Dave. So the lines is that.
Right. What do you think? Are we gonna see Sam Wormley on the trap play to go in for
14? That was Michigan State. 14 and a half, and the total is 40, which is
40?
representative of what the expectation is from both offenses.
Just tremendous. 40.
So that's essentially they're calling, what is that, 30 to
That's an Iowa number. They're calling
27-13.
27-13. Yeah.
So we'll see. I just think that I'm looking forward to seeing this game. I'm looking forward to seeing these two defenses, and I just think there's some things that Penn State on offense needs to sort out. I thought that they really missed the one wideout last week, Harrison Wallace, but again, that shouldn't have been a reason for them to just really struggle so much in the passing game. They have other players, and the running game, other than really Katron Allen, who's been consistent, it's been tough. Illinois had two really good defensive players, and they definitely brought their A games, but it took Penn State a while to get control of that game, and that surprised me a little, given how poorly Illinois had played on defense the first two games.
And they couldn't handle Johnny Newton at all.
No. Well, he's good. He is good.
I think he's the best defender in the whole Big Ten. I've looked at the league for 3 weeks now.
He is ready for he's an NFL body, and he doesn't need to add anything. He can just show up right now, plug and play.
Man. He's a player. So Iowa doesn't have anybody like that. They're not getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Lucas Van Ness. Where did Van Ness go? Is he in the NFL? Packers. Okay.
Packers.
And Jack Campbell, who is where the hell is he? He was a first round Detroit, right?
He's in the line. Yeah.
They're missing those guys, and Jack Campbell was an animal. I mean, he's the guy that
knocked Clifford 2 years ago.
John Clifford down and out and busted his ribs up. So they're not that team, but let me tell you, Phil Parker is the best defensive coordinator of any tenure in the Big Ten. Now, you could argue about Manny, and Manny's been really good.
I think Phil Parker's body of work is really outstanding.
But body of work-wise, Phil Parker, 22 years, going on 23 behind Kirk Ferentz, is terrific. And they run a zone scheme where they basically sucker young quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Well, this will be a totally different test for Drew Aller. And it's completely different than Illinois because they play a lot of man. This is going to be zone, and they sucker you into throws that you think are there, and then they move off their guys and pick them off.
Right.
And they got a lot of those guys still back. They got Cooper DeJean back. They've got some hitters on the back end on this defense, and they're going to be a tough nut for him to crack, man. They're going to be not fun in a rainy, dark and kind of dank atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the defense they play in the secondary. Dave, you remember we were watching in the press box. Drew made some great throws against West Virginia where he threw against his body late down the middle. Then the guys were open, but you got to be careful doing that against Iowa's secondary because you're right. They are what looks like it might be open, might be part of their plan. And if he's not very careful, he hasn't turned the ball over. He almost did against West Virginia. If he's not real careful, they're going to get a couple against him.
They ambush. They sucker guys. They disguise that zone and move off their men and move into passing lanes that look like they're open, and they're really good at it. And Phil Parker teaches it. So I don't know if Drew Aller is going to respond to this kind of challenge, but half of my pick is going to be that he's going to have a rough night. And I think this team is going to be resilient. And in fact, I think they're very capable and very, very well could beat both Ohio State and Michigan because they're going to gather themselves out after this. But I don't think anyone in this league is all that great. I think we could see all of those top three lose to each other, like a 1-1-1 kind of scenario, but also lose to somebody they shouldn't. And this is going to be my pick for Penn State losing to somebody they shouldn't.
I mean, the Illinois 2022 version was a lot better than but they survived in Ann Arbor. I mean, Ann Arbor, Michigan survived in Ann Arbor late in the year, where I thought Illinois had them beat, and that was a really good Michigan team. And there will each. I think you're right. All three of these Big Ten East teams
They're flawed.
they're gonna, yeah, but I think they're all gonna have a game where no one sees it coming, and they're really gonna have to
Yeah.
gather themselves in the fourth quarter to win.
Yeah. So I'm not saying this is going to wreck the season at all. I'm just saying this looks like a landmine to me, and we'll see if it works out, because no one's going to predict this. You know that. I mean, nobody is going to predict this. Even the Iowa guys aren't predicting this. I'm not just trying to be different. I've just seen this movie so many damn times under Kirk Ferentz. I have, and Phil Parker, more important. And if you look at what they're doing with the running game, I think they can do just enough to game manage this into the fourth quarter, and then maybe something wacky will happen. Iowa should not beat Penn State. They are a 14-point underdog for a reason.
Well, Dave, I'll give my pick later, but why don't you just go? You're already toe dipped. Why don't you just say it right now, so the Penn State fans are watching you right now. So just tell me your score and maybe one or two things. You've kind of gone into detail. How do you see it unfolding? What's your score? And you've said why you feel so strongly about this, but let's just give it out now.
Iowa 23, Penn State 17.
Okay. Is it a game where you think that Penn State's going to have to play from behind, or do you see Iowa? Usually when Iowa wins these games, they get control of them, and you just can't rally back against them. They very rarely make a drive on offense to win the game.
I see. I'm going to predict at least 3 Penn State turnovers. That's what has to happen for Iowa to win this game. Yep. So you have to predict that. A couple of picks of Aller, maybe a fumble of some kind, maybe a special teams gaffe, which, Penn State has hardly been airtight on special teams. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that happens. And at the end, if you get Penn State backpedaling, I think Iowa has enough guys who they can run at the quarterback in unexpected circumstances. They get a linebacker named Jay Higgins, who I really like, a young linebacker. Okay. And they've got a bunch of guys who hit, Schulte and DeJean, and they've got a corner who's a really good hitter. Strong safety. Mm-hmm. And Xavier, I don't know how to say his name, Nangpa. They're a little more athletic on defense, actually, than a typical Iowa team. So if they can smell blood in the water in this game, I don't think the whiteout or any of that stuff is going to matter. The longer it goes and the longer they hang in there, the more pressure will be in evidence. Now, Cade McNamara has been awful, but we saw Cade McNamara 2 years ago, who threw for 2,500 yards, who was a really good game manager and took Michigan into the college football playoff. Yeah. He's been around. He hasn't looked great at Iowa. What would you look like if you had to go play for Brian Ferentz? You might not have your mojo really on right away.
I don't really know what Cade was thinking actually about it.
He was thinking perfectly. He was thinking, who really needs a quarterback?
Can I work with this guy though? All right, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot.
McCarthy had replaced him, and he had few options, and he needed to move. Iowa is going to have a good defense. You've got a chance to win in that division. You've got a chance to win that division.
Yeah, and then you get to the Big Ten title game and get smoked.
Yeah, probably. But the Big Ten West is worse than ever.
So bad.
He probably had that in his mind. He's got a fairly easy schedule. They get Michigan State after this, and then it's just a long line of canned hams.
Nebraska.
Yeah, they got Rutgers, which is actually a better team. I mean, look out for Rutgers. But yeah, I mean, it's the whole West. There's nobody worth a damn in the whole division. I think Iowa's probably going to win it. I picked Wisconsin, but they look horrible. So somebody's got to get a roll
Our
going.
poll next week. I want Big Ten West Division of the Damned is what I would like to see.
Well, did you hear that the new Pac-2 and Mountain West, whatever the hell it's going to be?
I saw the rumor about that. Yeah, that's
in promotion and relegation, like the Premier League.
Yeah, who would the Big Ten West be in cahoots with for that?
Well, it's got to be Indiana. And
Patriot League.
Promote
the Patriot League. If you're bad enough,
it's the MAC.
Let's. I just say put Bucknell in there. That might be better.
You're just angling for Lehigh. I know what you're doing.
Give me Lehigh, Bucknell, whatever. I don't know.
But when this came out, and who was it? Who was it that put that up?
I just saw it on Twitter. I didn't see the source though.
Oh, it was Sports Illustrated. It was Ross Dellinger. He put it up, and he's a really good reporter.
Yeah.
So if he put it up, there's got to be some legs in it. It's a proposal, is what he said, not anything cast in stone. But wouldn't that be incredible? You know. And I dug up a column I did on it, and it's 10 years ago. It said what would happen if we had promotion and relegation in the Big Ten with the MAC, and there it was from 10 years ago. And I think back then Purdue was really awful. And remember that guy they had coaching them from Kent State, and so I think Western Michigan was going to come up with Pep Boy back then. And,
PJ Fleck, say his name, Dave. Say his name.
Listen to you. You mispronounce everyone's name on purpose. You're still saying Bilemma.
Mispronounce Fleck, though.
You say Bilemma and Ferentz all the time. Who are you talking to? You do it on purpose.
Dave, what better time now that we got some momentum than to take the momentum away and say, hey, Penn State viewers and listeners, we want you to join our tech subscriber base. A lot of great banner. Dave's on there. I'm on there. Johnny McGonigal is on there. All you got to do, if you're interested, is text Lions, Lions, to 717-912-9969. Make it happen. You can get some stuff from Dave over the weekend when he's all cranked up at halftime, and maybe on a Sunday it's going to be worth your while. He is a wildcat. You never know. He's a firecracker. He's already picking with not confidence, but he's made a reasoned pick that Iowa will beat Penn State 23-17. He's given his reasons, and they do make sense. Penn State's due to turn the ball over. I mean, I know due's maybe not the right word, but to go 3 games without a turnover is rare stuff. And this is a team in a close game that if you turn it over enough, you're going to either struggle to win or you're not going to win the game. So he likes them. So you guys need to call. You need to text Lions to that number, and you're going to hear from him every Saturday.
And if I'm wrong, it's a great chance to mock me, which is what everyone.
This is what I live for, Pence. This is another reason why you can mock him directly. I mean, I'm not going to give out his cell phone number. I'm tempted to, but I mean, that's one of the perks of maybe tech subscriber to him.
You should threaten that to me. If you get pissed off at me for some reason, I don't want to. I will. I don't want to.
Penn State fans, I have it memorized. It just takes one big mistake from Dave.
You know what that number. You know what that number used to be, right?
Yeah, it used to be mine.
Yeah. Give me 5 seconds.
That was back. He's got his. Are you gonna bring your flip phone back? Oh, I don't know. I never know what he's thinking, Penn State fans. Anyway, we're getting close to wrapping this up. We're not there yet. I haven't given my pick, but Dave is he's got.
Remember this?
All right. So if you're watching this, you can see it.
It came with a handy cane.
Dave has kept his flip phone.
That was yours, buddy.
Oh, he's kept my flip phone from 2007.
2002. This is the one you gave me. This was your first cell phone.
I don't know why you kept the cover, but that's great.
Well, how could you not keep the cover?
Did you? Do you still have your Tandy T200? You want to show the fans that, or anything else you break out from the '60s?
You're hung up on some clown from the '60s, man. Look at this thing. Look at it. It's kind of Feels
I
like
cannot believe. Yeah,
a brick.
21 years.
Yeah. So that was your number that I acquired
We
in
still
your
haven't said the number yet, but I know what number you're talking about.
Yes. And
I think I got your old number. We switched.
I didn't have a number. I didn't have a cell phone.
I thought,
No. Yeah.
well,
You got the cell phone first, and then I got it. Yeah.
all right.
And I do have my 1995 Power Book, which is like the weight of a Buick Compact. I mean, it's huge. It's got this giant nickel
Size of a Plymouth Fury 3. What Dave, do you have any other points before we wrap this bad boy up? Is there anything else? Any keys, any players on Iowa that Penn State fans should watch other than the names you've given? I know James loves the corner, and rightly so. He's going to have to be careful with him. But I just, on the offensive side, it just seems like they're going to need some help. Iowa's going to need some help to keep it closer to win the game.
Yeah, of course they are. I think he's probably talking about Cooper DeJean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a kid they've got named Sebastian Castro, who's their nickelback, who also is very savvy, but he's more of a hitter. I mean, he really cracks heads, and he's not afraid of. So the football has gotten a little. If you go back, I know you go back and watch games from 20, 30, 40 years ago, and I think the rules have really taken hold on defensive players, and they just don't. They're afraid of hitting somebody too hard, even if they use good technique. They're just
you really hitting, can't intimidate anymore. You just can't.
No, they're just afraid of doing that, which is it's gained the desired effect on a lot of these guys. But Castro's a little bit of a throwback. He will crack heads.
And Iowa still can't score despite that. Despite the fact that
I'm calling for 2 defensive TDs in this game. So just so you know, my Brian Ferentz over Manny Diaz prediction was not genuine. It's just
I know.
He's going to get a lot of help.
The one player I think Penn State fans they're not going to want to hear this, but that is perfect for this Iowa style. Their punter, Torrey Taylor, might be the best punter in the nation. Averages 46 yards a kick, excels at pinning teams inside their 20, and they're gonna try and make Penn State's offense go 85 yards, 90 yards on most possessions. At the very least, it's gonna shorten the game, and they're counting on, if they can go 12 or 13 plays, maybe they'll score. But that's hard to do against this defense.
And they're gonna load the box. Phil Parker is going to make the young quarterback beat him. That is the common denominator with Illinois and Aaron Henry. They're going to make the young quarterback beat him.
Yeah.
And he's going to depend on a bunch of wideouts that have not looked real good. That's the other thing, man.
Yeah.
They have dropped a lot of balls, which they haven't done the last few years. And I don't see one guy who's emerged. It's not Lambert Smith as a go-to receiver on this group. And I think this is a game where you kind of need one.
Yeah,
they've had Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington and all the way back to
Hamler, Chris Godwin,
all the way back to Robinson. They've always had this guy every year, and I don't see one yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, I think that Penn State knows that I'm not gonna use the word cautious on offense. But I do think they are aware of the scenario in which they can lose this game. And I think they'll be aggressive at times when they can. But I do think that is something that will be it'll be present in Drew's mind. And I think Mike Yursich will probably call the game with that in mind. He was the play caller in 2021 when Iowa's defense, Clifford got knocked out, but it was, he also turned the ball over. Yeah, but it was really the only reason Iowa really caught Penn State was they just couldn't do anything on offense. This offense could do something, but I do think they're worried about maybe being too aggressive. I think that Penn State will be cautious, but I do think if they get a lead, I think it could be a tough night for Iowa. I have it 29-9. That is my weird score for you, Dave. I just think you're going to see a lot of field goal attempts, and you're not going to see a lot of like 50 or 60-yard touchdown drives just because of the quality of the defenses, and also that Iowa kicking game is very good, and I think it's going to be real hard to march the field against that team. So I do think the under is definitely in play, but I just cannot, in good conscience, Dave, I cannot side with Brian Ferentz and Cade McNamara.
You are.
I just cannot do it, and I will not do it. And that is why I like Penn State 29-9. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I am not betting on those two. No way.
You were taking the road off traveled, and that's okay. I mean, probably the smarter man in this situation. We will see.
Yeah.